1811, a poem by Laetitia Barbauld. This is a LibriVox recording, read in honor of the 11th anniversary of LibriVox. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Still the loud death drum, thundering from afar, o'er the vastest nations pours the storm of war. To the stern call still Britain bends her ear, feeds the fierce strife, the alternate hope and fear, bravely, though vainly, dares to strive with fate, and seeks by turns to prop each sinking state. Colossal power with overwhelming force bears down each fort of freedom in its cause. Prostrate she lies beneath the despot's sway, while the hushed nations curse him and obey. Bounteous in vain, with frantic man at strife, glad nature pours the means, the joys of life. In vain with orange blossom sends the gale, the hills with olives clothes, with corn the vale. Man calls to famine, nor invokes in vain, disease and rapine follow in her train. The tramp of marching hosts disturbs the plough, the sword not sickle reaps the harvest now, and where the soldier gleans the scant supply, the helpless peasant but retires to die. No laws his heart from licensed outrage shield, and war's least horror is the ensanguined field. Fruitful in vain, the matron counts with pride the blooming youths that grace her honoured side. No sun returns to press her widowed hand, her fallen blossoms strew a foreign strand. Fruitful in vain, she boasts her virgin race, whom cultured arts adorn in gentlest grace. Defrauded of his homage, beauty mourns, and the rose withers on its virgin thorns. Frequent, some stream obscure, some uncouth name, by deeds of blood is lifted into fame. Oft o'er the daily page some soft one bends, to learn the fate of husband, brothers, friends. All the spread map with anxious eye explores, its dotted boundaries and penciled shores. Ask where the spot that wrecked her bliss is found, and learns its name but to detest the sound. And think'st thou, Britain, still to sit at ease, an island queen amidst thy subject seas, while the vast billows in their distant roar but soothe thy slumbers and but kiss thy shore? To sport in wars while danger keeps aloof, thy grassy turf unbruised by hostile hoof. So sing thy flatterers. But Britain, no, thou who hast shared the guilt must share the woe. Nor distant is the hour, low murmurs spread, and whispered fears, creating what they dread. Ruin, as with an earthquake shock, is here. There, the heart witherings of unuttered fear, and that sad death, whence most affection bleeds, which sickness only of the soul precedes. Thy baseless wealth dissolves in air away, like mists that melt before the morning ray. No more on crowded mart or busy street friends meeting friends with cheerful hurry greet. Sad on the ground thy princely merchants bend their ordered looks, and evil days portend, and fold their arms and watch with anxious breast the tempest blackening in the distant west. Yes, thou must droop, thy Midas dream is o'er. The golden tide of commerce leaves thy shore, leaves thee to prove the alternate ills that haunt, enfeebling luxury and ghastly want. Leaves thee, perhaps, to visit distant lands, and deal the gifts of heaven with equal hands. Yet, O my country, name beloved, revered, by every tie that binds the soul endeared, whose image to my infant senses came mixed with religion's light and freedom's holy flame. If prayers may not avert, if 'tis thy fate to rank amongst the names that once were great, not like the dim cold crescent shalt thou fade, thy debt to science and the muse unpaid. Thine are the laws surrounding states revere, thine the full harvest of the mental year, thine the bright stars in glory's sky that shine, and arts that make it life to live are thine. If westward streams the light that leaves thy shore, still from thy lamp the streaming radiance pours. Wide spreads thy rays from Ganges to the pole. O'er half the western world thy essence roll. Nations beyond the Appalachian hills thy hand has planted and thy spirit fills. Soon as their gradual progress shall impart the finer sense of morals and of art, thy stores of knowledge the new state shall know, and think thy thoughts, and with thy fancy glow. Thy locks, thy palace shall instruct their youth, thy leading star direct their search for truth. Beneath the spreading platan's tent-like shade, or by Missouri's rushing waters laid, old Father Times shall be the poet's theme, of Hagley's woods the enamelled virgin dream. And Milton's tones the enraptured ear enthrall, mixed with the roar of Niagara's fall. In Thomson's glass the ingenious youth shall learn a fairer face of nature to discern, nor of the bards that swept the British lyre shall fade one laurel or one note expire. Then, loved Joanna, to admiring eyes thy storied groups in scenic pomp shall rise. Their high-souled strings and Shakespeare's noble rage shall with alternate passion shake the stage. Some youthful bustle from thy moral lay, with stricter hand his fond desires shall sway. Some athwart, as the fleeting shadows pass, start at his likeness in the mystic glass. The tragic muse resume her just control, with pity and with terror purge the soul. While wide o'er transatlantic realms thy name shall live in light, and gather all its fame. Where wanders fancy down the lapse of years, shedding o'er-imaged woe's untimely tears, fond moody power, as hopes, as fears prevail, she longs or dreads to lift the awful veil, on visions of delight now loves to dwell. Now hears the shriek of woe of freedom's knell. Perhaps, she says, long ages passed away, and set in western waves our closing day, night, Gothic night, again may shade the plains where power is seated and where science reigns. England, the seat of arts, be only known by the grey ruin and the mouldering stone, that time may tear the garland from her brow, and Europe sit in dust, as Asia now. Yet then the ingenious youth whom fancy fires with pictured glories of illustrious sires, with duty's seal their pilgrimage shall take from the Blue Mountains or Ontario's lake, with fond adoring steps to press the sod, by statesmen, sages, poets, heroes trod, on ice's banks to draw inspiring air, from Runnymede to send the patriot's prayer, and pensive thought, where camps slow waters wind, to meet those shades that rouge the rams of mind. In silent halls to sculptured marbles bow, and hang fresh wreaths round Newton's awful brow. Oft shall they seek some peasant's homely shed, who toils, unconscious of the mighty dead, to ask where Avon's winding waters stray, and thence are not wildflowers bearing away. Anxious enquire where Clarkson, friend of man, or all-accomplished Jones his race began. If of the modest mention aught remains, where heaven and nature prompted Cowper's strains, where Roscoe, to whose patriot breast belong the Roman virtue and the Tuscan song. Let Ceres to the black and barren moor, where Ceres never gained a wreath before. With curious surge their pilgrim steps shall rove by many a ruined tower and proud alcove, shall listen for those strings that soothed of yore thy rock, stern Skiddaw, and thy fall, Lodore, fist with Dun Eden's classic brow their sight, and visaged Melrose by the pale moonlight. But who their mingled feelings shall pursue when London's faded glories rise to view? The mighty city, which by every road in floods of people poured itself abroad, ungirt by walls irregularly great, no jealous drawbridge, no closing gate, whose merchants, such the state which commerce brings, set forth their mandates to dependent kings, streets where the turbaned Moslem, bearded Jew, and woolly Afric met the brown Hindu, where through each vein spontaneous plenty flowed, where wealth enjoyed and charity bestowed. Pensive and thoughtful shall the wanderers greet each splendid square and still untrodden street, or of some crumbling turret, mined by time, the broken stair with perilous step shall climb. Then stretched the viewed wide horizon round, by scattered hamlets trace its ancient bound, and, choked no more with fleet's fair time's survey, through reeds and cench pursue his idle way. With throbbing bosom shall the wanderers tread the hallowed mansions of the silent dead, shall enter the long aisle and vaulted dome, where genius and where valour find a home. Awe-struck, midst chill sepulchral marbles breathe, where all above is still as all beneath. Bended each antique shrine, and frequent turn to clasp with fond delight some sculptured urn, the ponderous mass of Johnson's form to greet, or breathe the prayer at Howard's sainted feet. Perhaps some Briton, in whose musing mind those ages live which time has cast behind, to every spot shall lead his wandering guest, on whose knowing sight the beam of glory rests. Here Chatham's eloquence in thunder broke, here Fox persuaded, or here Garrick spoke, shall boast how Nelson, fame and death in view, to wanted victory led his ardent crew, and England's name enforced, with loftiest tone, their duty, and too well fulfilled his own. How gallant Moore, as ebbing life dissolved, but hoped his country had its fame absolved, or call up sages whose capacious mind left in his course a track of light behind. Pond where mute crowds on Davy's lips reposed, nature's coyest secrets were disclosed. John with their Franklin, Priestley's injured name, home then each continent shall proudly claim. Oft shall the strangers turn their eager feet, the rich remains of ancient art to greet, the pictured walls with critic eye explore, and Renoise be what Raphael was before. On spoils from every clime their eyes shall gaze, Egyptian granites and the Etruscan vase. And when mist-fallen London, they survey the stone where Alexander's ashes lay, shall own with humbled pride the lesson just by time's slow finger written in the dust. There walks a spirit o'er the peopled earth, secret his progresses, unknown his birth, moody and viewless as the changing wind. No force arrests his foot, no chains can bind. Where'er he turns, the human brute awakes, and roused to better life, his sordid heart forsakes. He thinks, he reasons, glows with purer fires, feels finer wants, and burns with new desires. Obedient nature follows where he leads, the steaming marsh is changed to fruitful meads. The beasts retire from man's asserted reign, and prove his kingdom was not given in vain. Then from his bed is drawn the ponderous oar, then commerce pours her gifts on every shore. Then Babel's towers and terraced gardens rise, and pointed obelisks invade the skies. The prince commands, in Tyrian purple dressed, and gypsed virgins weave the linen vest. Then spans the graceful arch the roaring tide, and stricter bands the cultured fields divide. Then kindles fancy, then expands the heart. Then blow the flowers of genius and of art. Saints, heroes, sages, who the land adorn, seem rather to descend than to be born. Whilst history, midst the rows consigned with fame, with pen of adamant inscribes their name. The genius now forsakes the favoured shore, and hates, capricious, what he loved before. Then empires fall to dust, then arts decay, and wasted realms and feebled despots sway. Even nature's changed, without his fostering smile or fear no good, no plenty yields the Nile. The thirsty sand absorbs the useless rill, and spotted plays from putrid fens distill. In desert solitudes and Tadmor sleeps, stern Marius and o'er fallen Carthage weeps. Then with enthusiast love the pilgrim roves to seek his footsteps in forsaken groves, explores the fractured arch, the ruined tower, those limbs disjointed of gigantic power. Still at each step he dreads the adder's sting, the Arab's javelin, or the tiger's spring. With doubtful caution treads the echoing ground, and asks where Troy or Babylon is found. And now the vagrant power no more detains the vale of Tempe or Ausonian plains. Northward he throws the animating ray, o'er Celtic nations bursts the mental day, and as some playful child the mirror turns, now here, now there, the moving lustre burns. Now o'er his changeful fancy more prevail Batavia's dykes and Arnold's purple veil, and stinted suns and rivers bound with frost, than Anna's plains or Baia's viny coast. Venice the Adriatic wets in vain, and death sits brooding o'er Campania's plain, o'er Baltic shores and through Hercynian groves. Stirring the soul the mighty impulse moves. Art plies his tools, arid commerce spreads her sail, and wealth is wafted in each shifting gale. The sons of Odin tread on Persian looms, and Odin's daughters breathe distilled perfumes. Loud minstrel bards in Gothic halls rehearse the runic rhyme and build the lofty verse. The muse, whose liquid notes were wont to swell to the soft breathing of the Aeolian shell, submits, reluctant, to the harsher tone, and scarce believes the ordered voice her own. And now, where Caesar saw with proud disdain the watered hut and skin of azure stain, Corinthian columns rear their graceful forms, and light verandas brave the wintry storms, while British tongues the fading fame prolong of Tully's eloquence and Marius' song. Where once Bonduca whirled the scythed car, and the fierce matrons raised the shriek of war, light forms beneath transparent muslins float, and tilted voices swell the artful note. Light-leaved acacias and the shady plain and spreading cedar grace the woodland ring, while crystal walls the tenderer plants confine, the fragrant orange and the nectared pine. The Syrian grape there hangs her rich festoons, nor asks for purer air or brighter noons. Science and art urge on the useful toil, new mould a climate and create the soil. Subdue the rigour of the northern bear, o'er polar climes shed aromatic air. Unyielding nature urged their new demands, and ask not gifts but tribute at her hands. London exults. On London art bestows her summer ices and her winter rose, gems of the East, her mural crown adorn, and plenty at her feet pours forth her horn. While even the exiles her just laws disclaim, people a continent and build a name. August she sits, and with extended hands holds forth the book of life to distant lands. But fairest flowers expand but to decay. The worm is in thy core, thy glories pass away. Arts, arms, and wealth destroy the fruits they bring. Commerce, like beauty, knows no second spring. Crime walks thy streets, Freud earns her unblessed bread. O'er want and woe thy gorgeous robe is spread. And angel, charities in vain oppose, with grandeurs grows the mass of misery grows. For see, to other climes the genius soars, he turns from Europe's desolated shores, and lo, even now, midst mountains wrapped in storm, and Andes' heights he shrouds his awful form, on Chimborazo's summits treads sublime, measuring in lofty thought the march of time. Sudden he calls, "'Tis now the hour," he cries, spreads his broad hand and bids the nations rise. La Plata hears amidst her torrents roar, Potosi hears it as she digs the ore. Ardent, the genius fans the noble strife, and pours through feeble souls a higher life, showers to the mingled tribes from sea to sea, and swears, "Thy world, Columbus, shall be free." End of 1811, a poem by Anna Laetitia Barbauld, read by Lilith Branda.